So there are new disastrous numbers in the war against ISIS. One of the monitoring groups that looks after civilian casualties in military actions going on right now in Iraq and Syria have noted a huge increase in civilian casualties stemming from when Donald Trump first took over. Now, President Obama, of course, I've criticized him for also doing strikes that have killed civilians in the past in these areas, as well as in Pakistan, Yemen, Libya, and all the other places that we're currently conducting operations. We're bombing people using drone strikes. I've criticized him on signature strikes and things like that. So while I've criticized President Obama on that, it turns out that according to the numbers, Trump is actually far worse. He's actually killed far more civilians than had President Obama. So let me explain. The report that I'm referencing is from Airwars. Now, they're a UK-based project that described themselves as a journalist-led transparency project. So that means that they're more of a they're a non-governmental agency. So they go in, they're independent, they look and they try to see and document people who were killed by American strikes who happen to be civilians. So their numbers aren't 100% perfect. However, it kind of gives you a sense of what we're doing, how we're actually performing in the Middle East when it comes to, are we avoiding civilian casualties, or are we actually encouraging civilian casualties by just bombing the shit out of them, as Donald Trump had said and actually had promised to do. Now, they recently released a report earlier this week on Tuesday, which has data on the strikes reportedly conducted by not only us, but our allies that are fighting ISIS and other jihadist groups in those countries of Iraq and Syria. Now, according to data gathered since the coalition's inception on October of 2014, the U.S.-dominated multinational force has been responsible for a minimum of 5,117 civilian deaths, with about 55% of them now attributed during Trump's administration, or to Trump's administration. So think about that. We're not even into the first year of Trump's term. And yet, he is responsible, his administration is now responsible for over a half of all the civilian deaths that are recorded. That's amazing. Let me give you some numbers here. Now, this came from their official Twitter account. And they said, during Barack Obama's 29 months at the helm of the ISIS war, we tracked 855 alleged civilian casualty events, which likely killed around 2,298 to 3,398 civilians. So again, their numbers are off, since I'm pretty sure the government is going to not be forthcoming with a lot of that data. In fact, I think their estimates are far, far more conservative. As in like, oh, what are you talking about? Civilian casualties? Well, we only had a handful. No, governments, of course, will lie about this in order to make the war slightly more palatable, right? Or to justify their action. No government wants to go out there and admit that, yeah, we killed a lot of civilians in our strikes, but hey, we got a couple terrorists too. So that's the reason for that. Now, they also tweeted, again, this is comparing President Obama's record to Donald Trump's record. They tweeted, in Donald Trump's first 7 months as president, we tracked 1,196 alleged incidents in which we assess at least 2,819 to 4,529 civilians dead. Jeez. So, look, those numbers are very, very stark. Now, it also mentioned that in last month's report, Airwars claimed that about 80 civilians were killed per month under Obama, and that figure had risen to 360 under Trump by July. So, some of you might be like, hey man, promise kept. I guess you would be right, because he did promise to bomb the shit out of them. And you can see from the number of strikes, he absolutely is following through on that. And unfortunately, that is leading to a lot more civilian casualties. Now, this is a total disaster, right? It's obvious. We're bombing a lot more, but we also have looser standards on what it takes to order a strike, okay? Now, again, both of those mean more civilians are going to get trapped in the middle, and obviously that's a bad thing. Now, some of you, of course, might argue, but hey, man, look, this is war, they're terrorists, and war people die. That is unfortunately true. Yes, people die. But in this kind of war, when you're fighting against terror groups, and especially against a terror group like ISIS, which a majority of Muslims actually despise, they want nothing to do with ISIS, then yes, that is not a good thing. All it takes is one strike on an innocent family, and you might just be giving ISIS new recruits. Look, you bomb their family, ISIS is going to say, hey man, oh look at that. Did the Americans bomb your family? Well, we're going to strike out against the Americans if you join us. Stuff like this does so much more to radicalize people than I think a lot of us realize. And that, of course, means that the war on terror is not going to end. It's never going to end. And look, personally, I don't think Trump necessarily wants endless war. I think the defense contractors absolutely do. I just think that Trump happens to not care at all about the people over there. And he's also too stupid to realize that what he's doing is actually creating more terrorists. Either way, we have the same result. More death and more war. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.